Imagine you are deeply asleep in a tent, miles away from civilization. You are entirely unconscious, wrapped in a thin layer of nylon and a sleeping bag. You have no armor, no claws, no fangs, and your senses are dulled. Biologically speaking, a sleeping human is one of the most vulnerable creatures on the planet. Just a few hundred yards away, a mountain lion, a grizzly bear, or a leopard is stalking through the underbrush. They are hungry. They are perfectly evolved killing machines, equipped with night vision and bone-crushing jaw pressure. By all laws of nature, you should be an easy meal, a free 150-pound buffet. And yet, you wake up the next morning, unzip your tent, and brew your coffee, completely unharmed. Every year, tens of millions of people camp in the wilderness worldwide. Yet predatory attacks on sleeping humans are so incredibly rare that when they do happen, they make global headlines. Why? What invisible force field protects us when we are at our most defenseless? The answer isn't that animals are merciful. The answer is a fascinating mix of evolutionary biology, psychological warfare, and sensory confusion. To understand why predators don't eat us in our sleep, we first have to understand how predators view the world. Nature is an economy, and predators are incredibly strict accountants. Every hunt is a massive gamble of energy. According to wildlife biologists, apex predators actually have surprisingly low success rates. A tiger's hunting success rate is only around 10 to 20%. For wolves, it's about 15%. Because failure is the norm, an injury sustained during a hunt is essentially a death sentence. A broken jaw or a shattered rib means the predator cannot hunt again, leading to starvation. Therefore, predators only attack what they are highly confident they can kill safely. This brings us to a fundamental concept in behavioral ecology known as the search image. Coined by Dutch ecologist Luc Tinbergen in 1960, search image theory explains that predators don't just wander around looking for food in a general sense. They form highly specific, mental search images of their standard prey, based on generations of evolutionary conditioning. A mountain lion has a search image for a deer. A leopard has a search image for an antelope or a baboon. Humans do not fit this search image. Furthermore, a human zipped up in a synthetic, neon orange sleeping bag, lying flat on the ground inside a geometric nylon tent, looks absolutely alien. To a predator, this doesn't trigger the instinctual prey response. It triggers a completely different biological response: neophobia. Neophobia is the extreme fear of novel, unfamiliar objects. When a predator encounters a bright blue tent smelling of bug spray and synthetic polyester, their risk assessment brain takes over. What is this? Will it explode? Is it toxic? Will it fight back? The caloric reward is simply not worth the unknown risk. But what if you aren't in a tent? What if you were just sleeping under the stars in a sleeping bag or a hammock? Why doesn't the predator strike then? This is where your chemistry saves your life. You might think you smell like a tasty piece of meat, but to a wild animal, you smell like a biological weapon. Most humans consume diets rich in complex spices, artificial preservatives, processed sugars, and cooked meats. We wash our bodies with artificial soaps and coat our clothes in chemical detergents. To a wild predator with an olfactory system tens of thousands of times more sensitive than ours, a human smells deeply unnatural. We don't smell like an herbivore, we smell like trouble. Scientists have recently proven just how terrifying our presence is to the animal kingdom. In 2023, a groundbreaking study published in the journal Current Biology by Dr. Liana Zanetti and her team at Western University fundamentally changed how we view human-wildlife dynamics. The researchers went to the Greater Kruger National Park in South Africa, home to some of the world's most dangerous predators. They set up hidden cameras and speakers near water holes. Over several months, they played different sounds to see how wildlife would react. They played the sounds of lions snarling, dogs barking, gunshots, and humans simply speaking in calm, conversational tones. The data was staggering. Wild animals, including apex predators like leopards, hyenas, and even other lions, were twice as likely to run away from the sound of human voices as they were from the sound of lions or gunshots. In fact, wildlife abandoned water holes 40% faster when hearing a human voice, and a shocking 95% of the observed species fled immediately upon hearing humans.
Dr. Zanette's study proved a theory known as the ecology of fear. For the last 100,000 years, humans have been the undisputed apex super predator
of planet Earth. We have hunted megafauna to extinction. We have displaced predators from their habitats. This deep evolutionary trauma is hard-coded into the DNA of modern predators. When they smell us or hear the bizarre rhythmic sounds of human snoring, their instinct isn't dinner, it's dread. Beyond our scent and evolutionary reputation, there is a physical barrier that has historically protected sleeping humans: fire. In his acclaimed book, Catching Fire: How Cooking Made Us Human, Harvard primatologist Dr. Richard Wrangham outlines a fascinating theory. Around 1.5 to 2 million years ago, Homo erectus began using controlled fire. This was a monumental turning point in human evolution. Before fire, our ancestors had to sleep in trees to avoid being eaten by giant prehistoric cats and hyenas. But once we learned to control fire, we could sleep safely on the ground. This allowed us to enter deep REM sleep, which scientists believe played a major role in the rapid expansion of the human brain. Fire is universally feared in the animal kingdom. A wildfire is the ultimate destructive force in nature, and wild animals have evolved to flee from the smell of smoke. By building campfires, or what biologists call bivouac behavior, humans harnessed a force of nature that serves as an impenetrable psychological barrier. Even when the fire dies down to embers while you sleep, the lingering smell of smoke on your skin, your clothes, and your campsite acts as a powerful predator repellent. Now, we have established that predators almost never attack sleeping humans, but science requires us to look at the exceptions, because tragically, it does occasionally happen. So, what goes wrong when a predator does attack? Data shows that when a predator attacks a sleeping human, one of 4 specific anomalies has occurred. Number 1 is habituation. This is most common with bears. According to data from the National Park Service, the odds of being injured by a bear in Yellowstone are incredibly low, about 1 in 2.7 million visits. However, when bears are fed by humans or eat human garbage, they lose their natural neophobia. They stop viewing human campsites as dangerous novelties and start viewing them as lunchboxes. The predator isn't hunting the human, it's hunting the hot dogs inside the tent, and the human is simply in the way. Number 2 is starvation or injury. A healthy predator avoids humans. A starving, desperate predator will risk anything. The infamous Tsavo man-eating lions of 1898, which killed dozens of railway workers in Kenya, were later discovered to have severe dental disease. Unable to hunt fast, tough-skinned prey like zebras, they turn to the slowest, softest animals available: sleeping humans. Number 3 is mistaken identity. Sometimes, the human silhouette is altered in a way that triggers a predator's prey drive. If someone is sleeping in a bivy sack out in the open, and they suddenly thrash around or run away in a panic, their movement can mimic the frantic struggles of a wounded animal, triggering an automatic predatory response. And number 4 is loss of habitat. In places like the Sundarbans mangrove forest in India, where human populations push deeply into tiger territory, the barrier between humans and wildlife has completely collapsed. In these high-conflict zones, tigers have adapted to see humans as a viable food source out of sheer ecological necessity. But if we look closely at these exceptions, they actually prove the rule. It takes extreme circumstances, starvation, disease, human error, or severe habitat loss for a predator to override its deep-seated evolutionary fear of humanity. When you zip yourself into your sleeping bag tonight, miles away from the concrete and streetlights of the city, you are not as vulnerable as you feel. You are protected by millions of years of evolutionary history. You are shielded by a biological aura that screams apex predator. You are guarded by the lingering scent of fire and the unnatural, alien geometry of your camping gear. The animals in the dark aren't looking at you as an easy meal, because to the mountain lion in the brush, the bear in the valley, and the wolf on the ridge, you are the scariest thing in the woods. They don't want to eat you, they just want you to leave. So sleep tight. The wild is watching, but it's keeping its distance.